Okay. Okay, I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. Today we're here with advisors for this podcast. But we'll just go ahead and introduce ourselves first. My name is Margot, and I currently go to Evergreen Valley College, and I'm currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in dental hygiene, and I hope to transfer to another community college, which is Foothill.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Yomira. I attend San Jose City College. My major is sociology, and I plan to transfer to university.
Hi everybody, my name is Daniela. I attend UCLA and I'm currently a pre-public affairs major, hoping to add on the education and social transformation double very soon, hopefully in the fall. Um, yeah, and that's pretty much my plan. Maybe I'll do grad school after, but we'll see how where it takes me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lupe. I am currently a student at San Jose State, going to be a third year, a psych major. And yeah, that's it.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Nguyen, and I'm also a third year at San Jose State, and I'm currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in business.
So we'll go ahead and start it off with a little icebreaker. So our question is, what do you all plan to do over the weekend?
Well, if we're keeping the order going, I guess I'll go first. I don't know if this is just me, but I don't really make weekend plans. I just kind of let the weekend happen and see what comes up. So as of right now, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Um, but just like some things that are in my schedule, or like just having a few meetings. Definitely need to get caught up on like watering my plants because I haven't done that since last weekend, and I feel like they're looking a little dry and shrivelly right now. So I need to get on that.
You're a bad plant mom. I'm just kidding. This weekend, I don't know. I just plan to just chill. I feel like I'm super tired. So we'll see, as like Daniela said, whatever comes up. I think my sorority sister might come over tomorrow. So, just have a nice day with her. And yeah, we'll see wherever the wind takes me.
That sounds like a really relaxing weekend, Lupe. Kind of want to do that. I think this week or today actually, after in a bit, probably gonna end up going to karaoke with a couple of my friends. It's be enjoyable, probably. We actually didn't realize, kind of on our part, that we have a close acquaintance. We didn't realize that it's his birthday the same day too, so it was kind of our fault on that. Um, but we'll probably pay for his food or something. Maybe get him a quick cake if we stop by. We're terrible friends, but um, probably just enjoy the weekend too. Chill for the weekend after.
Did you forget your friend's birthday?
We did, and we didn't realize it until we had to check his Facebook. Make
Oh my
sure
god.
that we knew it was around this time, but it definitely didn't realize that it was today. So kind of bad on our part.
So you forget your friend's
I mean,
birthday. You're also still on Facebook. That's two disses in one.
that's too much when you have to go on Facebook and check the day. I mean, like the day, it's fine, but the month too, like, okay.
Yeah,
For
we're just terrible.
me, for me, hmm, what I plan doing over the weekend is probably cleaning my room, probably hanging out with friends, and because I haven't seen them since I came back from my trip. Um, and probably going over to the side of my mom's family because we're having like a baby shower. So that should be fun. Like the fun's our game. I like to play and win all the games.
So for me, like I don't really have that much planned. Like I want to go to the beach, but like that's like not a for sure yet. Um, but I'm for sure gonna get Starbucks. I always get it like every day. Um, but the thing is, like right now, it's like super weird. Like the Starbucks near me, or like all the other locations, they're like running out of things, like syrups and like all that. And I remember one day I was calling up every Starbucks, and I was like, "Do you have this syrup?" And then she's like, "Oh, not enough to give." And I was like, not even for 2 pumps." And she was just like, "Oh, like you meant in the drink?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay, you can come." And I was like, "Okay." But yeah, I'm probably gonna get that over the weekend.
How far did you have to go get your Starbucks?
I say like 15 minutes, not that bad, but
Sounds like a lot of effort to go for one Starbucks cup.
I feel like I'm just too addicted.
Dude, it's like annoying. Like, I'm sorry, but like I'm still paying regular price and you guys don't have. Like, I'm sorry, but at least give me like a discount or something. I actually told the barista once. I felt bad, but my mom forced me, so you know. Okay. So today we're going to talk about more of their experience with UCs and CSUs. Like we know, there is 23 CSUs and 8 UCs. So, like, for example, if you want to go to a UCs, I would say UCs is more like research based and CSUs is more like hands on. So it's important to keep that in mind. So I think we can get started.
Okay, so our first question for all the advisors is, are you a first generation student, and how did that play into your transition?
Yeah, I definitely would say like I am first gen, the first in my family to go to a 4-year university for sure. I have an older sister who is 10 years older, so she graduated in 2010 from Andrew Hill. Um, and she did have plans to go to higher education. She actually got like scholarships to go to Evergreen. It just didn't end up working out because of things that came up for her. Um, Given that we are also from a mixed status household. And so I think that even though that wasn't something that happened to me directly, it definitely shaped the way that I viewed higher education at such a young age, because at the point that she graduated, I was literally 10 years old. And so all I knew about like what it means to go through the process of like your education was what I saw coming from her. And I don't know, it really struck me for a while. I was like, is this how it's meant to happen? Like, does it always end this way? And luckily for me, and I guess we'll talk about this more later, I received a lot of support and I definitely learned how to ask for support, which made it so that my higher education journey looked completely different. And I think that I was very privileged to have been put in that position.
Yeah, I feel that. I do identify as first generation. I have an older brother that did attend Santa Clara. But at the time that I was applying to scholarships, he was still in college, so he wasn't really around. I was having that fear of, my parents don't understand these applications and they're asking so many questions. So that was definitely difficult to navigate. I was lucky enough to be in Avid. I went to Silver Creek High School. So I had a teacher, but at the time I wasn't really willing to ask for help, just because I don't know, I come from, my household is very like, like you need to figure it out on your own type thing. So that was kind of hard to navigate. So I would say that my transition was pretty hard just because I felt like I didn't really have somebody to go to where I was like super comfortable, even though I did have my Avid teacher. But at the end of the day, I did get through it. I eventually, when it was like towards the end of like, where things were almost due, was when I started like reaching out and I was like, okay, like I really do need help. But I learned after that, I got more comfortable asking for help, and trying to explain things to my parents was definitely also a challenge. But yeah, that was kind of my experience.
It's definitely great that you got like develop a little there Lupe, towards the end where you're actually starting to help, ask more towards, you're more comfortable in asking more for help. I feel like that's definitely something I need to work on still. But I do also identify as a first generation student. I come from a Vietnamese background. So my parents both come from Vietnam and then they end up moving here. I think I have to agree with you, Lupe. I also do have an older sister as well, but I did not ask for help as much as when I was going from Andrew Hill into San Jose State. It was definitely difficult because I mean, I don't know, like my parents didn't really know much either, of course, coming from first generation. Um, you started learning a lot of stuff. Like it's very independent. I felt very, it was nice, like to have that freedom, but I felt really lost. Like I felt like I could have done so much more as well. Um, Knowing like the resources that we could have had, like knowing if my parents had shown me those resources, if they knew about it, like I felt like I could have gone so much higher, like so much further. But I'm happy where I am at. Um, and I think I'm starting to learn from you guys. Like asking for help is definitely a great something that we should learn how to do.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. Being first generation is hard, guys. Okay. Moving on to the second question. Are you Oh wait. What happened? Describe your summer before your first year. What did you do and what were your priorities to prepare?
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry for my first year. Well, that was exactly a year ago, so it shouldn't be that hard to remember. But tell me why I am like sitting here like, what did I do? Um, so honestly, what happened between like March of 2020 to July of 2020, I could not tell you. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I was probably just like right here in my room, doing God knows what. But honestly, as for like the transition, once I started building more into it's like, okay, it's happening. You're gonna go to college. At the time, I thought I was gonna be at college 6 years away from home, like LA and near Beverly Hills. That did not happen. Obviously, this is definitely not Beverly Hills. Um, but I was very adamant about like making sure that every single little piece of the puzzle was put in place where it needed to be because okay, so like I guess a little bit about me is that I'm a very anxious person, and to like compensate for that is I like to plan everything to the T. And so I'd be that girl that would be at every single little Zoom call, like trying to figure out what are cluster programs at UCLA. Um, I would be hitting up like upperclassmen that are in my major, asking them about their experience. What classes did you take? Where do I look for professors that are not going to flunk me and like destroy my GPA? And it ended up working well. I think that I ended up having the opportunity to do a lot of things because of the initiative that I took on. I also did a summer bridge program with the counseling center at UCLA that supports students from marginalized backgrounds, which is really fun. But honestly, tough because the minute that I started doing college at UCLA, 1 quarter early, it was also when I started working and I had to figure that out. Like, how am I going to manage my time and then have to read 200 pages at least a week for homework that was due on Friday? So it was a lot, but I couldn't have had it any other way. Seriously, because I didn't have an option to do any different.
Dang, Daniela, I cannot relate to that. I was definitely not the person to be going to the Zoom calls. If anything, I was just like, I'm gonna let whatever is meant to happen happen, if I'm honest. So things that I did to prepare, I would say not much. I think for me, it was more focusing on like the financial side. So I was working in the summer, making sure that I was able to cover any expenses that were to come up, maybe like parking or like books and all that. So that was my main priority. That was definitely something that I was super, super nervous about. But something that I was also super nervous about was like going to my first class type thing. So I was sitting there like YouTubing like first day of college experience. And like, so that was my way of preparing. I was like, let me sit here and watch somebody else talk about their experience. And like, I was clicking like my first day at the dorms YouTube videos. Like honestly, that's what I did that summer. Like anything other than like I didn't go to Zoom meetings or well, for me it was all in person. So I didn't go to events or any of that. I really was just I think more mentally preparing myself because I was so nervous. Because you know, everyone in high school is always like your teachers are like, oh, well, your professors are not gonna care about you. And like it wasn't really like that. But it was what I was expecting, you know. So I think for me it was more like mentally being like you're gonna be fine, like, and also like just trying to figure out what I was gonna take on my first day. Honestly, I just took a notebook and a pencil and that's all I took. So but yeah, that's how I was preparing.
Man, you guys seem so prepared compared to like even you, Lupe, like even that notebook and pencil, like that's way more prepared than I ever was. Going into my, I guess, freshman year. I think for that summer, I definitely did not watch any like how to get into class videos. I don't know. It was that's pretty prepared for sure. I don't know. I was just really happy that, you know, getting out of high school, like it felt great because although it was very, you know, very sad because you're going on the next stage of your life and then you're gonna meet new people and stuff like that. Um, I was just enjoying my time, like enjoying summer. I guess I did go to like this, not necessarily a summer bridge program, but a little more easing than that. It was like once a week we end up going to campus, and then they kind of just show us around a little bit like a pre-orientation kind of thing, but not really a pre-orientation. It was great because we got to learn a bit about campus. I guess that's kind of my preparedness, in a way. But funny story is, I kind of went with my friends. It was me, my other guy friend, I think another like friend that was a girl too. We ended up having a little group, or it was like 4 or 5 people. The funny thing is, when we got to campus and we got to talk to advisors for a bit, one of my friends, he really wanted to get into animation. And the thing is, if you don't know about SJSU, with animation, you either get in your first year as a freshman or you don't get in for at all. Like you cannot transfer into animation. And that's just the way Impaction works, like for that particular major. I guess so many people just want to get into it. But when he checked his admission letter, he was just so happy before that, like he got into SJSU. But what he didn't realize was that they declined him for animation, and he ended up being undeclared. So the good thing we went to that pre-orientation because that his advisor told him like, "Oh yeah, you didn't make it. Like, sorry, like there's nothing you can do about it." And he had already paid like $250 like to go to SJSU. Um, so his plan just threw out the window. Like he just couldn't go to SJSU anymore. Like just because of that pre-orientation. Like if he did not go to that pre-orientation and he just went normally, like he would have probably just regretted it and been doing something else that like he probably didn't like because he didn't like any of the other majors at SJSU. Um, but yeah, now he's since it's 2 years now, he's now going back in SJSU. I'm surprised he has no bad blood about it. He has to pay like another $90 out of his pocket. So yeah, little story about my friend. So I guess that orientation really did help prepare for that SJSU for fall.
Wow, it seems like you guys were like really prepared. I can really like relate to Daniela, you know, being in class of 2020. Didn't expect like our whole first year of college to be like this, you know. Like I feel like I would have been like Lupe, like going on YouTube because like I remember like when I was in middle school, I'm like, oh, first day of high school, like am I gonna have lockers or something? You know, like those kind of things. So like I feel like yeah. And with David, like that's crazy. Like that happened to your friend. Imagine if you guys like didn't go to that orientation. So it's like super important, like just to like prepare yourself, to any students like out there. Make sure you're just like reaching out to your school, seeing if there's like any resources to help you just before you get started. Okay, now going on to the next question. um, did anyone give you any advice for your transition, and if so, what advice did they give you? Was it applicable to you and useful?
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't be able to tell you like the exact advice that they gave me because I think that this is becoming a theme, right? I have memory problems. I go back to 365 days. Um, yeah, but I honestly was having a rough time making my college decision and thus like affected my college transition because by the point that we were having to decide what to do and where to go, I was very stagnant between making a move that was going to physically separate me from all that I have known my entire life, and another pretty good option that wouldn't require me to make such a drastic change. But I had to really like talk about that with people who have mentored me and just that I've really looked up to the past 6 or so years at that point, and really run through the options, to which I realized like, and I wouldn't say that this is applicable to everybody, but in my situation, it definitely was. Like, I realized that I needed to take that leap, like that physical 6 hour away from home leap, and move and get out of here and just try something new and see where that would take me. Um, I think that one of the things that meant a lot to me was just the idea of taking up space at these institutions because, again, like being first gen, being Latina from like the south side of San Jose, like your community kind of looks the same every single day. When you go to UCLA and even the Zoom rooms look different. I was shocked the minute that I clicked on that link, and it honestly took me a while to just be like, okay, I'm going to say something in this class today, or I am going to use a reaction emoji to show the TA that I'm here and I'm actually listening. And I'm just like vibing behind the screen in a closed, like shut off camera. Um, so that was a lot. And I think that having people like that I observed go through these processes really helped me. And I would say it was definitely useful.
Yeah, as Daniela mentioned, my memory is not that great either. So I believe it was a teacher somewhere, sometime. Someone just a quote that has stuck with me and I like live by it kind of is everything happens for a reason. Because San Jose State was not my first choice. So during, my transition, I was kind of bummed and devastated that I was gonna have to stay in San Jose because unlike Daniela, I was ready to get out of here. I was like, I want to leave. I want to be far away just to experience it, come back. But I really wanted to not be here anymore. And then, things happened. And so during my transition, I just kept remembering that quote, like everything happens for a reason. And I completely agree with it. I couldn't be happier at San Jose State. And I think, just keeping that in mind and like letting things flow was something that definitely helped me get through things. So yeah, that was advice that stuck with me, and I would give that advice to anyone going through a transition. Like just know that you are where you're meant to be, and so many opportunities will open. So don't be close-minded to it. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I got from my own transition.
I definitely agree with you, Lupe. I think that like things do happen for a reason, and like we all go down like different paths, but I mean we all end up in our own hopefully desired destination in the end. But I think I also have to agree with everyone where the theme does seem to see that we do all have short-term memory. Sadly, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's the job. I don't know. We'll see. um, but yeah, I think, man, talking about advice, I think your teacher was definitely great. Um, Whoever that teacher was, Lupe, for that. I think more so advice that I took probably wasn't very philosophical. What I really took into account was advice that you should take the train because parking is so terrible at SJSU because it's so crowded. And I take that. That is the best advice I've ever had going to SJSU. Of course, there's so much more, but what really got me kept that in my mind is taking the train because I do not have to pay like $200 out of pocket every semester, and I don't have to worry about crashing into people crashing into me specifically, or like just downtown stuff. So definitely take the train if you go to SJSU, or take something that's not driving.
Oh my god. Yeah, I agree with you, Lupe. Like, I do believe everything happens for a reason. Okay. Into the more interesting question. Describe your college transition into your first year in one word. Feel free to explain why.
Dang. Okay, so I'm a crybaby. I cry at sad things. I cry at happy things. So it was definitely very emotional. That's my one word. For obvious reasons, like for a quick minute, I thought I was gonna move away, and then I was homesick, and I wasn't even away from home. I was still here. Um, so I don't know how that happened. And then in terms of like everything else, I think again, like I'm a crybaby. So when things like accomplishments happen or I reach milestones, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it happened. And I get excited. And then that excitement turns into tears or whatever it manifests itself into. Um, I think that it also had to do a lot with like the inspiration and the empowerment that I felt because I think being at UCLA, which is a predominantly white institution, um, I had to look a lot for like my counter spaces where I was going to be able to just take a step back, refresh, and be able to like keep going when things aren't always the easiest for marginalized students. And in that, like, I found a lot of really amazing people, a strong community at UCLA who just continuously amazed me beyond what I thought was even possible. And that was really monumental for my first year experience.
I agree with that, Daniela. I feel like, finding your people is definitely important. I would describe my transition, the word that I would use would be overwhelming, just because, the first gen thing continued where, I'd had to figure out how to sign up for classes, and that was super confusing. And I know like my brother went to college, but he went to a private institution where he was lucky enough to have open classes, and I went to San Jose State where it's super impacted. And so trying to figure that out where I was like, okay, I need these classes, and what's going to fulfill my requirements and but still take things that are interesting. I think that was something that was super stressful. And then just thinking of all the changes, like I had just gotten my license, like David said, parking is horrible, but I was going to be driving. So just thinking of all the things that were going to be my reality as I was going to transition, where it was definitely something that I was just like, oh, that's a lot. It was a lot to think about. I made it through, but it was definitely some stressful moments. And so I would say overwhelming, but I learned a lot, so it's all good. But yeah.
That's great. To hear the thing. But sorry, Margot, would you mind reminding me of the question?
Yeah. So describe your college transition into your first year in one word. Feel free to explain why.
In one word. Okay. So Lupe had it with overwhelm. I think I have to agree with that. Can I take someone's word? Yeah, Lupe is agreeing, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with overwhelming as well, just because going from high school to college is such a big jump, especially in terms of freedom, because you're picking your own classes. Like I'm having to pick my own classes. I have to figure out how to get there on my own. Like I'm so used to my parents driving me back then. Um, and just that whole environment of just having like you're going from a school that like maybe reaches 1,000 something into like five figures, so um or like four, I don't know, just a lot of people. I definitely think overwhelming is a word, but it is also very fun. So I enjoy going to college a lot more than I did in high school. So it was definitely something that to look forward to.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the word with the word overwhelming, just because like I said, like me and Daniela graduated class of 2020, like it's just crazy. Like just right now too, all of us in virtual. I bet you guys didn't expect, like, I know you guys are class of 2019, you guys didn't expect like to be virtual as well. So it's just like super overwhelming. And yeah, I feel like I'm still like overwhelmed right now. Also going back like in person, like I still don't know what that's gonna be like. So going to our next question, what is one fear that you had going into college and how did you overcome it?
So besides the potential possibility of catching COVID and getting sick, um, I mean, I think one of them was definitely like financial security. Um, I come from like a low income background, and so seeing that net cost seemed a little bit like, are you sure? Like, I know I can't do math, but are you sure you're okay? Because to me, it didn't add up. Um, so I was just like, how am I gonna do this for 4 years? I told Lupe this, like, I was really close to not going to UCLA because of that net cost. It just didn't seem feasible. And I was very fortunate to have had a friend who literally stayed up with me until midnight to make that a reality. Like, we were on there looking through websites for scholarships that I could apply to. Um, it was like the most randomest things possible out there so that I could go to UCLA and pursue my dream school. I guess that was a way that I did something actionable to try and overcome it. I wouldn't say it's something that is not a reality anymore because I mean, like, I am still low income. That net cost is still there, and it's just a matter of like getting through the next 3 years. But definitely will recommend like applying to scholarships, applying for jobs, trying to do that part-time student worker thing, which I know is not feasible for a lot of people as well, is definitely a challenge. But if you can, try it out. I guess the last thing is something that I'm still working on. Like, I'm really good at asking for support from other people. But when it comes to taking care of business at home, I am terrible. Like, I suck at being honest with my parents because I'm afraid that I'm going to feel like a burden or something because they already have so much on their plates. That's really hard. And I think that I've learned, at least I'm trying to like get into the habit of realizing communication is really important, especially if you're going to be far away from home. So I need to like get on it and overcome that challenge so that I don't allow this one fear to consume me and my experience.
Yeah, definitely valid, Daniela, but I'm glad you're getting through it. I'm gonna talk about two, one really quickly. My first one would be I had a fear of failing all my classes because as I mentioned, teachers are like, your professors are not gonna care, like your classes are gonna be super hard. And how I overcame it, I went to school and then I saw, oh, it's fine. Like you just have to be responsible. So, that was something that I was definitely scared about in the beginning, but then I got over it like in a week. I was like, oh, okay, it's whatever, I thought it's not that bad. But another fear was not having my own like circle of friends or like fitting in or not having my people. Because in high school, I didn't really have a lot of friends just because I thought everyone was whack a little. Like I don't know, I feel like people were fake. So I was so excited to go into college to try to find, my people. But I was also scared of not finding my little circle. But I was lucky enough to, join an amazing sorority, Sigma Alpha Zeta. We they have definitely changed me as a person and like having that support, I think, is something that I was afraid of not having, and I do have it. So, I would recommend, getting involved, even if it's not with a sorority, like a club. There's so many clubs out there. So that's kind of like advice off of like what I learned through my experience. But yeah, that's kind of my fear, not having friends. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
Okay, do you recommend since you have your experience in sororities, would you recommend someone to join? Like how much does the pros outweigh the cons, like the amount of time that you have to put in and all that?
Right. I think I'm super biased. I would say 100% yes. I think it's super worth it. You learn so much. You do events. I don't know. It's just an experience that I think nowhere else you're gonna get. And I definitely think the pros outweigh the cons. I think it's very time consuming, but it makes you more responsible. And if you're like me, I don't like just sitting around. I get bored. I feel like if my time is not being taken up, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I start getting sad. There's also the social side of it, having someone to like go out with, or like just I know I have trips planned with sorority sisters. So it's like you always have someone down. Like we're super big. Like even if they're not in college, you will have that connection. It's a good network. You can find jobs. That's how I found this job. Our coordinator, she's my sorority sister. So it's definitely something I would say to consider, but it's not for everyone, I will say. So there are clubs. I would just say, get involved in any way that you can.
That definitely does sound like a really good idea though, to start looking into something like that I might start thinking about. Because it definitely is hard to find friends in college, to be honest. It's just like even if you meet people in classes, like yeah, you talk to them. Like I don't know, there probably are a few people that like really find their best friends in college. But at least for me, I don't know. I haven't really found anyone that like that I've gone really close to that comes from college. I'm still really close to the people that I met from high school. The only thing is they all went to Dianza, so or like any other community college around the area. Because since I was the only one that went to CSU, a CSU, it was definitely hard. So I definitely feel you on that. Like I fear like not making any friends, but I'm fine with like I've still especially thanks to COVID, like we did get to connect a lot more through online and stuff. So that was great. But I think one thing I definitely fear going into SJSU was probably like if I'm doing is what I'm doing like what I can do for the rest of my life kind of thing. To be more serious about it. I think I don't know, like I know there obviously I think I kind of like developed it now, like I could always change in the future. Like it's definitely normal to change, like to definitely um change your mind on what you want to do in your career. Like Margot, for example, like she easily went from like nursing into dental. Um so it's like definitely easier than people hear and say like it is. But yeah, I was definitely scared of like do I think business is the right path for me? Because I was definitely deciding between engineering, forensics, and I guess business, because they were all really interesting to me. Because I really am interested in math. So, but I also love doing like criminal investigation. Like I love watching, let's say like Criminal Minds or something, for example. Probably the best criminal show out there, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, just stuff like that. I think was what I really feared the most. Like, okay, like, am I really gonna be able to do this the rest of my life? But definitely, I think I could change if I want to. Um, but now after taking all my classes, I think I am for sure business is the way for me. I really enjoy doing it, and I think eventually you get to that path where you know what you will want to do, and then you stick to it.
Mary, you can go ahead and go. I don't know if you can hear.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know, something's going on with my Calsop laptop. Okay. The next question. What is one thing / a skill that you learned from your transition?
Yeah, actually, listening to David just now kind of reminded me of how I felt a little bit too early on as well. Like, definitely discovered that I'm a person that's very type A and likes to have a plan for things that are going on in my life early on, like as soon as high school. So I had an inkling of what I wanted to do for a career in my education really early on. I had a really hard time during high school as well when I was having a hard time figuring that out and building up the confidence and to assert, like, this is what I want to do. Um, and so once I went to UCLA, I was like, I'm not going to be that kind of person that is going to change their major 2 or 3 times because I know what I want to do. So I'm going to stick to it. And I applied as a poli sci pre major, got in, was not even registered for orientation when I tell you that I changed my major to pre public affairs. And I was just like, okay, this is happening, which was good because I did it early on. Luckily, I like the major that I'm in now. But then it happened again where I'm like, okay, I'm going to add on a double major. And I still have yet to do that. I'm going to take my first class in a few weeks in that double major. So we'll see how that goes. Changes to be made, possibly again. And I just kind of started spiraling and I was like, okay, maybe I'll add on a minor in addition to this double major. And I was just like, okay, like you just need to slow down. Like I was afraid to do it. And then I learned to be patient with myself, like going through those changes. But I guess in addition to that, another thing that I learned was setting up boundaries for myself. That was definitely a highlight because I don't know about like people listening in, people in the Zoom call, how they feel about like in regards to the space that they have at home. I don't really have a study space. I've never had. I don't have a lot of like space that is just mine, but I do have really understanding parents that try to give me that space. And it was a lot easier to do when we weren't all under the same roof 24/7. And so sometimes I'd be having like Zoom calls that I have right now, and my mom would be opening the door and she'd be like, "Oh, ¿qué quieres comer?" In translation, that's like, "What do you want to eat?" And I'm like, "Mom, I'm at work right now. Can't really do that." Um, and so it was a process. So I learned patience and I learned boundaries.
Dang. Yeah, I can totally relate to that, Daniela. I mean, my parents are Mexican, so and then not them not knowing, like, yeah, it's a whole thing. But I'm glad that you did that your first year. I am barely developing that side of myself. But I'd say something that I learned was time management. Because when I was first transitioning in, you know, I feel like classes take up less of your time when you're in comparison to in high school, but then like the school work is way more. So I definitely within the first few weeks understood that I needed to sit down, write down all of my responsibilities and kind of plan what I was going to do like that day, in regards to like assignments, knowing when I had to get them in and all that, was something that I definitely was considering. I got involved pretty early on. I was joining my sorority my first semester, so it was a lot to consider. I was working at Great America. I wasn't working like anywhere like on campus or anything yet, but it was something that was taking up my time. So just making sure that I was prioritizing all those things. But something that I have just started implementing was kind of like more the self-care. Aspect of it, because I felt like my first year, yeah, I was time managing all of my responsibilities, but I kind of forgot about myself. So I think a skill that I developed was, just making sure that I was getting my responsibilities done, but also considering, family time, like, I don't know, working out. So just making sure that I was making time for all the things that were important to me and realizing that some things you have to let go as well. You can't fit everything into your schedule. So being kind of clear to myself about that.
I definitely agree, Lupe. I think self-care is such an underrated thing. And like letting stuff go, like things that you can't really do, like that's out of your control, that's definitely important because you like sometimes it's something minor, like but you really think it's important. It's in the long run, it's not usually it's not that big of a deal. But it does create a lot of like stress, mental stress, and I definitely agree that you gotta let some things go if you really can't control it. I think I definitely have to say time management as well for a skill that I learned going from high school to college. Um, I think I used to back in high school. I used to have a part-time job as well, but it was like very minor. But it was like I'd spend like maybe 3 to 4 hours after school every day. Like after I get out of school, I'd go straight to my job and then just work it out. But it'd be like maybe sometimes 6 or 7. And I'd complain, be like, oh my God, like most of my day is gone. Like there's no time left. And keep in mind, like I guess high school homework, most of the day is just going to classes, but homework wise, it's pretty minimal. I'd say like pretty like maybe an hour to two. But definitely it felt like it took up a lot of time. And that completely changed going into college. Like now regularly I used to have classes where I'd go from like 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and I wouldn't be home till like 9 a.m. And keep in mind, like Lupe said, like college work is very intense. Not sometimes not too intense, but like it takes up a lot of time, like up to like multiple hours a day. And I wouldn't even flinch going into college after, like you just get used to it. Like used to go like sometimes go home at 3 or 7, something like that. But you day like still a lot of day left. College, like don't even flinch anymore. I'm up at midnight. I'm like, okay, I'm still fine, blah blah blah. But definitely time management really helps because since I still work a part-time job now. Just having a plan, like I got homework at this time. All right, I have class at this time, and then I got work. I have it all finished. And then I still feel perfectly fine because I have that schedule for myself, and I'm ready. Like, okay, I could schedule this time for self-care. Like I have enough time for that, and then it's definitely really nice because there wasn't really ever a time where I think in the beginning, actually there was a time in the beginning where I took on too much. Um, and after that first semester, like I got out of it. I learned, like Lupe said, like there's some things that you can't do, and that you just gotta like reduce it so you could keep yourself sane. I definitely did that my second spring semester, for my freshman year, and after that, I was just gliding through like everything else, like having that schedule. It was really great. Time management is so important as as a college student, I think. Um, and I don't think there's ever a time. I've always, ever since I used to be a really big procrastinator, but now I at least try to get things done like 2 days, at least one day, before the deadline. It definitely helps a lot instead of doing those overnight overnight homework sessions, I guess.
Okay, now getting into our last question. Did your first year in college meet your expectations? Why or why not?
That's a hard one because I don't think I've had the time to reflect on it much. Um, to what's like immediate in my mind, I actually didn't mind my first year of college. I think that I was able to do a lot with what was available to me at the time, obviously considering the setting. And I don't think that I don't give myself enough props for all that we as a class of 2020 and as everybody who was doing this whole thing on Zoom deserves. Like it was rough, but we still managed to do it. And I think it was a pretty successful first year of college. I again I was able to find my people. I think I was able to find my purpose and I was able to go through things that were challenging at the time that tremendously helped me grow. Like I was pretty much like on the verge of getting the worst grade that I've ever had in one of the first classes that I took during at UCLA, and I got through it, and I was able to manage like pulling it off some way somehow. So that was something that I struggled with for the first time. I learned how to navigate different kinds of people and just navigate a 30,000 plus institution of students. So I think that says a lot. Um, and I think it didn't meet my expectations, but I am not unhappy with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Zoom was horrible, in my opinion. But my first year was actually like half in person. The first semester was in person, and then like half of the second semester kind of was also in person. So I'd say yes, it met my expectations. I don't know. I felt happy. I think being in the environment of SJSU was cool. Like I had visited San Jose State before, but I had never really like spent that much time there. I think the environment was nice. People were welcoming. I think having access to the library was something that I definitely enjoyed. I'd never had like a space like that because I never drove, so I couldn't really go. So yeah, it met my expectations. As Daniela mentioned, I also found my people, as I mentioned earlier, and I think it was pretty smooth until COVID hit. But other than that, yeah, it met my expectations, and I'm happy. It was fine. Yeah.
I'd say it definitely did meet. SJSU is a really nice school, I think. The library is such an amazing place. Like all that quiet time, and sometimes you could like just kind of sleep there. It's great. I think I have to agree. I think in a ways it definitely did meet my expectations. It was kind of just me like underrating how college would be. I thought it was gonna be really stressful, like I wouldn't enjoy the classes at all. Um, but I didn't realize it until like going into college classes is definitely 100 times more enjoyable than like high school, like especially if it's something that you're really interested in. Because you could take the wonky classes like I don't know, like ballet. I don't know. I'm not saying ballet is wacky or something, but like just like something that if you're interested in ballet, like the teachers there, like especially if you have the right ones, they definitely teach a lot. They definitely learn a lot. More outside than just the curricular itself, but like the way they teach, like they give you stories and like it definitely makes learning like what learning should be like really fun for the most part. Um, I think it definitely did meet my expectations. More, or it over exceeded my expectations because classes are definitely super fun, and I think definitely a lot more freedom than I thought I would have to. It's great.
Okay, so I think that's all we have for today. I really enjoyed hearing everyone's stories, like in a four-year university, just because, I do go to a community college, so it's like really interesting to hear about your experience. Like, for example, if I ever thought of even transferring to a four-year, I'm always not shutting down like the other options and all. But I also want to thank everyone that joined, and I wanted to remind you that we have another event as well. So we have our Real Talk series, which is going to be on July 29th. It's about fall preparation. And so if anyone wants to tune into that, you could go ahead and check our link tree. And also, if anyone wants to add anything,
Thank
guys.
you, advisors, for having us and like just listening to your stories. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.